Welcome to the AI Hustle Podcast, the podcast where we break down the latest in AI news, tools, and interview experts helping you hustle and do more using AI. If you've been following the podcast for a while, you'll know that over the last 6 months, I've been working on a stealth AI startup. Of the hundreds of projects I've covered, this is the one that I believe has the greatest potential. So today I'm excited to announce AIBox. AIBox is a no-code AI app building platform paired with the App Store for AI that lets you monetize your AI tools. The platform lets you build apps by linking together AI models like ChatGPT, Midjourney, and 11 Labs. Eventually, we'll integrate with software like Gmail, Trello, and Salesforce, so you can use AI to automate every function in your organization. To get notified when we launch and be one of the first to build on the platform, you can join the waitlist at aibox.ai. The link is in the show notes. We are currently raising a seed round of funding. If you're an investor that is focused on disruptive tech, I'd love to tell you more about the platform. You can reach out to me at jaden@aibox.ai. I'll leave that email in the show notes. Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Today, we have the pleasure of talking with Jake Heller, who is the CEO of Casetext. He is a former Stanford University Law School graduate, and Jake Heller most recently worked as an associate at Ropes & Gray before branching out in 2013 and founding his own company, Casetext, which is now based in Palo Alto, California. Originally a Y Combinator-backed legal tech startup, Casetext recently sold to Thomson Reuters for $650 million. Jake, can you give the listeners a brief, first off, welcome to the podcast and happy to have you on. And can you give the listeners a brief overview of kind of Casetext and its mission in the legal profession?
Totally. So first of all, thanks for having me on. Very happy to be here. So since 2013, what we've been trying to do is bring the best-in-class technology to the legal profession. We believe that when lawyers have great technology, they are able to provide much better, less expensive, and more high-quality services to their clients. Not unlike the way that if you give a doctor access to better machinery like an MRI, they can give better healthcare to their patients. And it was started in part because when I was practicing law, on the one hand, when I was working at the law firm or in government or in a nonprofit, if I wanted to do something that was pretty simple, like find a relevant precedent for an opinion or for a brief that I'm writing, or find the right piece of evidence in what's a process called discovery, I would spend like many nights in a row up until 2 or 3 a.m. just trying to find the right information. And at the same time, if I wanted to go to my iPhone and Google for an open Thai restaurant near me that serves vegetarian options, that was like really trivial.
Right.
So on the one hand, for like really important stuff, law, where there's like life and death on the line, or a business might be going out of business if they don't get the get the ruling that they need. On the one hand, right, it was very hard to use legal technology to find that information, but I knew the technology is out there because it's on my phone and just on Google to find like really trivial stuff.
Right. That's incredible. So I know that, you started this back in 2013. Can you talk to us a little bit about like what the process for that was? You were working at a law firm, you were, doing your own thing. What kind of like helped you make the decision to pivot and actually start this company? Because, that's a big step going from, a presumably, stable job to all of a sudden becoming an entrepreneur and kind of branching out.
Yeah, it's funny. When I made the decision, it was actually very easy because at the time I thought, well, either this will crash and burn or be immediately a smashing success for either way. I'll find out soon. And if it crashes and burns, hopefully they'll take me back as a lawyer. And what everybody told me when I started the company is that, Jake, you're signing up for a 10-year experience. And for some reason, I just didn't listen. I didn't realize that, there was like this third option where it takes a very long time to build and build and build and build, build something amazing. Mm-hmm. At which point you either do what we did, which is the exit, or you just keep on going and try to go for IPO or whatever. But, at the time, it was actually pretty easy. I kind of said, I quit and left the firm and just started building. I think there's another piece of this too, which is you need to have a naive optimism. I believe when you're starting a company. At the time, I was thinking, how hard could it possibly be to get all government, all case law, statutes, rules, and regulations into a database? How hard could it possibly be to build the technology, the search technology and information technology around this? Um, you know, and the answer is it's extremely hard.
Right.
But you know, if I had known how difficult it was, maybe I wouldn't start the company, which is actually, you know, you need this naive optimism to just get going.
Yes, that's interesting. That's actually a concept I've heard from a number of people. You know, like yourself, 10 years in, they're like, had I known the pain I just went through, you know. But of course, there's no, without the pain, there's no reward. And you've built an absolutely incredible company. How have you kind of seen the company's vision evolve since you know, founded it back in 2013?
We definitely have evolved a lot. And what's driven it primarily is what we can do with the state of the art of artificial intelligence. When we started in 2013, I was not a believer in artificial intelligence. Natural language processing had very limited application at the time. And a lot of the companies who purported to be the artificial intelligence space at the time were either like making it up or not doing that interesting of work. But as we all know, the state of the art here has shifted dramatically. And now our product is based entirely around large language models, and specifically, you know, heavy use of technologies like GPT-4. So what we view it as we're building our company is that underlying technology and the underlying shift is an enabler for folks like us to provide way better, way more comprehensive services to our clients. And it's just shifted dramatically over time. And the fast forward to today, leading right up to the acquisition by Thomson Reuters, you know, we have an AI we call co-counsel that is essentially like hiring another attorney to your firm. It can review documents for you, do legal research for you, review contracts for you, edit contracts based on your instructions, and much else. That was unthinkable a decade ago. Just absolutely. If we pitch that, you know, we'd sound like great visionaries,
Right?
But also be laughed out of the room for technological infeasibility. And now it's the reality. It's amazing.
That's incredible. And I've actually looked at the demo of your product on your website. I'm really impressed by, you know, what that is able to accomplish. So I really do believe Casetext is kind of like a leader in the legal AI market right now. What do you think sets you apart from other competitors in this space, or even newcomers, right? I believe there's like Harvey AI and some other big AI companies that are kind of starting up and getting funding and whatnot. What do you think is the big differentiator here?
I think there's this new and emerging field that we're participating in that we call kind of an AI legal assistant. And for its worth, kind of zooming out for a second, I think in every profession, there's going to be an AI assistant built for that profession, you know, for finance, tax, accounting, et cetera. And we hope to actually help build some of those at Thomson Reuters, since they serve all of those categories as well as the news. But I think it's, you know, in less than 5 years, every single professional is going to have an AI assistant, and it's going to be as commonplace as having a smartphone or email or other kind of basic underlying technology. It's just that powerful.
Yeah.
You just cannot not have one of these things as a professional over the next 4 or 5 years. And so looking at what we do at Casetext, we focus on a few things that we view as really important for building a good AI assistant. We believe it needs to be reliable. And a component of that is it needs to be citable. So when it's doing work for you, it says, I've done your legal research, for example, or I read these documents. Here's the answer, and here's where I draw that information from, which lets the user verify that it got the right answer. I mean, it usually does anyways, right? But just, you know, like a good associate or good assistant, it's going to say not just here's the answer, but here's why you should believe me, and here you click this link and you can read that part of the document, et cetera. So it needs to be, one, reliable. 2, it needs to be scalable. You need to, professionals deal with not just kind of a chat-like experience, but also they read sometimes thousands or millions of pages of documents to reach a conclusion. And so this AI needs to be able to also read thousands or millions of documents to reach a conclusion. And, you know, that means you have to kind of break out of the normal chat paradigm and go far beyond that to behind the scenes, you know, reading through hundreds, thousands, or even, you know, tens of millions of documents to reach a conclusion or an answer. And finally, it needs to be secure and private. For professionals, especially lawyers, you're dealing with sometimes extremely sensitive information. It could be highly personal information, or it could be information that is incredibly critical to a business.
Yeah.
And we need to develop AI in a responsible and secure manner that, excuse me, that that puts companies in a place where they understand that as they're asking the AI to analyze this data, it's not, for example, learning from that data,
Right.
and thus potentially disclosing, in a future session, secret information.
Yes.
So I think what you're going to see is AI assistants emerge that try to nail all three of those. It has to be reliable, has to be scalable, has to be secure. And if you can pull that off, then I think you're a long way towards getting a really strong AI assistant.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's got to be critical. Something that a lot of people have been, obviously know about it. It's been in the news a lot, so I'd love to pick your brain on it. There was recently a case where essentially, a lawyer used believe ChatGPT or something, and it was with a lawsuit with an airline. And in the course of that case, it cited some fake cases, and he got in big trouble. How does your platform, how does your co-counsel kind of you make sure that you're providing accurate, reliable information and avoid situations like that?
It's a great question. So to that first point, that all AI assistants need to be reliable, that's possibly not possibly, it is the most important thing towards AI assistants that actually work for professionals like lawyers. So unlike ChatGPT, where you're just having a conversation with it and it's answering everything almost from its memory, when you're working with a platform like Co-Counsel, it's going to review documents first and base its answer only on the information contained within those documents.
Okay, gotcha.
And that enables it to get answers that are recent because it's access to databases that are updated daily. It also allows it to ground its answers in real documentary evidence. The analogy I like to use here is when you're working with ChatGPT, imagine you're talking to an incredibly smart, incredibly well-read person who is taking like a closed book exam where they're going to get credit for answering every question. So they're going to try their best, but their memory is imperfect. And so if you say, find me a few cases about airlines in New York, it might say, oh, well, the Smith case is a great case. And it turns out maybe the Smith case, like they misremembered, and the Smith case does not exist. On the other hand, if you take that same underlying technology, but find a way to make it an open book exam and give it unlimited access to millions and even billions of pages of documents and abilities to search for those documents and read them before providing an answer, that same very smart person is going to do a much better job on that test. And that's what we've seen in practice.
Yeah, that's incredible. I definitely think that's got to be really critical to it. So based off of, what you're seeing with Co-Counsel and how it's kind of handling documents, reviews, legal research, memos, all that kind of stuff, how do you see the role of human lawyers changing in the future? Is this something that is going to replace them? Is this something that augments them? How do you kind of see that relationship in the future?
I think that the first thing that's going to do for human lawyers is going to make them more human. What you do as a lawyer, especially as a young lawyer, is a lot of what a very senior managing partner at a law firm I was talking to described as ditch digging.
Okay.
You're reviewing thousands of documents manually, and you spend a lot of time as a young lawyer thinking, why did I go to law school for this? Can't anybody do this? And I think that now that we lawyers can delegate these sorts of tasks to an AI, what that frees up for us, in fact requires us to do, is take on much more difficult, interesting tasks, strategy, working with a client, all those kinds of things are going to be so much more important as as you get to delegate tasks to an AI. I also think, paradoxically, I think it's going to increase jobs. What we've seen so far within the legal field, and also primarily all fields, is as technology has advanced in law. I mean, we used to research by going to the library and pulling out stacks of books as opposed to doing it online. We used to write hand letters and use typewriters before we had the internet and word processor.
Right.
Where they've been through some pretty magnificent changes in technology that makes it dramatically more efficient. And there are more lawyers now than ever, and we're making more money than ever. Right. So I think it's not a coincidence. I think what ends up happening is, as you provide services that are better, cheaper, faster because of technology, you can get more demand for those services. People want, more legal services that are currently being provided. And I think that trend continues, maybe dramatically so. I mean, the statistic that is always just shocking to me is between 80 and 90% of Americans who have a legal problem and need legal help do not get it today.
Wow.
And so it's an industry that makes $400 billion a year in the United States and has 80 or 90% of the people are of an untapped market.
Wow.
An enormous opportunity. It's $1 trillion global market, and it's just the tip of the iceberg because most people who need legal help in small businesses doing contracts, people who are sued in small claims court, all kinds of things where it just doesn't make any sense to hire a $500 or $1,000 an hour lawyer.
Right.
All of a sudden become accessible because of technology. So I think that trend continues.
That's super interesting. Something you said at the beginning there, I think really resonated, and I've heard the same sentiment other places, right? With, lawyers when they first come in saying like, well, why'd I go to law school for this? I was, recently talking to someone who, he essentially has a startup. He worked in Hollywood doing production. And the first number of years working on those movies, when you do video editing, is just really tedious tasks where you're cropping around people, frame by frame, takes you days and months. And essentially he's developed an AI that can do that. And I think a lot of these AI, while people say like, oh, AI is going to take jobs or whatever, at the end of the day, it's doing a lot of really painful, tedious tasks so that, professionals can do their best work, what they're most excited about, what takes the most creativity and whatnot. So I definitely see that with what you guys are doing. I think that's really impressive. Can you share some success stories or impactful results from law firms or legal departments that have integrated co-counsel into their workflows and what they're doing?
Yeah, we've been really blown away with some of the reactions that we're getting from co-counsel, and I think that that's part of why, as a company, we were building for 10 years, but we launched this product like literally 6 months ago, fewer than 6 months ago, and have already exited for $650 million, with the so-called 10-year overnight success.
Right.
I think a lot of that was driven by these success stories. I mean, the California Innocence Project has published a piece, or kind of been kind of public about how they, have a very limited staff, right? As a nonprofit that's doing really important work. What they literally do is they find innocent people in prison and help them get out of prison. It's like one of the most important things you could possibly be doing. And one of the challenges they had is they had so many people applying to have their cases reviewed by them, and not enough people to really deeply investigate all of those case files as fast as they wanted to review them. So the California Innocence Project started loading up those files, sometimes thousands of pages long, witness reports, police reports, testimony from the trial, etc., to look for patterns that would give them an indication of whether this is the case they want to take on.
Okay.
And they've estimated that what sometimes people will be waiting for 4 years to get their cases even reviewed, whether they're sitting in jail, possibly innocent, by the California Innocence Project, is brought down to 2 years or less, right? So they're
Wow.
2 years of time.
That's incredible.
And that's just one example. Another example, kind of on the other end of the spectrum at the very large law firms. We were working with a firm that had a client whose board was under investigation for something pretty serious.
Okay.
And they started loading up the files, millions of files, Teams messages, emails, etc., that could help understand whether there is a potential violation, whether they need to really deal with this investigation in one way or another. And within days, they started finding files that were relevant to the inquiry that they're able to hand over to the DOJ that help them de-escalate the situation. This process would otherwise taken 6 to 12 months of people hand reviewing document after document after document. And actually, that firm, they're probably gonna have the people review those documents anyways, because it's a no stone unturned, be very careful about things, but they were able to get answers within days. And the client service there, that turnaround of being able to go back to the client and say, hey, we found the following documents that we believe are concerning. We're going to, kind of strategize around this, et cetera. It's just unheard of in legal right now, because it's just too hard to deal with that massive amount of quantity in that short amount of time frame and turnaround.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that time definitely does make a difference in those cases. What are some challenges you faced in integrating AI into the legal industry, and how have you overcome them, right? This is obviously a highly regulated industry. definitely not one that everyone is taking on. But you've obviously been able to kind of jump in and be quite successful here. So what are the challenges that you've had to overcome?
Well, the first challenge is building a really good product around this, and it's not trivial to build a great product around the current state of large language models. They are, without grounding them in real information, they're prone to hallucination, which is they making stuff up. They or having inaccuracies. They are expensive. They have a limited what's called context window. They can only read a short amount of text at a time. A lot of the early breakthroughs for us were based on the fact that we've been working with large language models since their inception, basically, so about the last 5 years, and had a lot of institutional knowledge and workflow built around all of that going into this latest wave with GPT-4 especially. But it's still very, very, very challenging to build out the right tests, the right safeguards, the right processes to engineer your way around what otherwise be extremely challenging issues with building products in the legal space with using large language models. And after overcoming that, in some ways the product's the easy part. The next part is even after you've built something really incredible in a field like legal that is highly regulated, a bit conservative, you have to really go above and beyond to reach your market and to help people understand the benefits and value here, and to make sure that they don't, make sure they aren't as scared, at least unnecessarily scared of this technology as they ought not to be. So it's a major education program, a major marketing program, a lot of effort around sales, a lot of effort around support and customer success. All of that needs to just be absolutely stellar when you're bringing a new product in a new category to market like this. Because without that, the kind of human side and the connection, I think people naturally will, especially in this field, naturally distrust and naturally take their time, et cetera. And the way we view this is like that's a disservice to them.
Mm-hmm.
There's amazing technology right now that can help them with their practice and ultimately help their clients, whether it be get out of jail or get off death row or save their business or win a patent or what have you. And we view it as part of our mission to make sure that they deeply understand and hear how this technology can be beneficial, and we go kind of above and beyond there. So we view that as part of our mission, but it does not come naturally or easy for them. So you need to really help show them the path.
Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. I remember a little while ago you're talking a bit about the fact that a lot of this is possible because of LLMs and kind of where the industry is today, and some of the incredible products you've recently launched. And you're mentioning that if you had pitched that back at inception, people would have laughed at you like this was impossible. I'm curious what that looked like when you originally got this kicked off. Were you originally bootstrapped? Did you go raise funding? What was that pitch like? What were you talking with investors or people about back then at the inception?
So we're definitely venture backed, and we started with YC and raised a seed round, a Series A, a Series B, and then finally a Series C before exit. And from day one, we had the prescience to say there's a big problem here in legal where technology is underserving lawyers, that the state of the art of current consumer-facing technology is dramatically better than where the state of technology is for lawyers, and that there's a major market opportunity here. But what that state-of-the-art technology has really, really shifted over time. In the very early days, believe it or not, our major focus is around crowdsourcing, like building a Stack Overflow or Wikipedia or Quora for law, because what we saw as a major hidden kind of gap is the intelligence layer that later AI would basically provide. But we're looking to build something along those lines. And at the time, you kind of transport yourself 10 years ago, those were the star companies, and that was the cutting edge technology. Even like Yelp or GitHub, right? Most of people's technological lives are based around input and information from other people, and we thought there's a real power that we can build in law too. And to be honest, we didn't. Either that idea was not going to work in law ever, or we didn't execute on that idea well. But either way, it was not what ended up being obviously the winning vision for us. And part of building one of these startups is you do, change course sometimes. You try things, you try a lot of things. Not all of them work. You learn a lot each time. I think that's part of why there are these, quote unquote, 10-year overnight successes.
Hmm.
Part of that 10 years is making mistakes,
Yeah.
or under executing or going the wrong direction and then figuring it out. And so, um, you know, what's interesting though is you look at our pitch deck from 5 years ago or 7 years ago, what you'll see is a vision at the very beginning of how law should transform it, and not unlike the way that the Industrial Revolution transformed the creation of physical goods. Right now, what our decks would say then, as I was just looking at this, it's fascinating how little in some ways the pitch has changed. I
Okay.
know the technology under it has changed really dramatically. What we'd say then is, uh, law practice is bespoke, it's handcrafted, it's it is kind of manual, and there are some benefits to that. It feels kind of high end and high class, but there are also some major disadvantages. Just like back in the day before we had like Nike and Reebok, we had like shoe cobblers, right?
Hmm.
And okay, well, if you like lived in a village with like one shoe cobbler, that's like all you're gonna get. Like
Right.
that guy's good, that gal's good. You get good shoes. If not, and they're expensive, and they, or don't have kind of the quality benefits of automation. All kinds of issues with pre-industrial revolution, creation of physical goods. All of those still apply to the provision of legal and other professional services. And so, from a pretty early stage of our company, we're saying this needs to change. Technology can change it. We're at this precipice of machine learning and artificial intelligence making a major impact there, and we were all in on that from very, very early on. And again, I think that's in part why we were able to do what we did, is just um, being on that precipice of AI.
That's incredible, and you've done some incredible things from there. I know we ought to wrap up, but as a final question, I would love to ask you where you see AI continuing to shape the legal industry in the future. What are the new, perhaps features you're looking at adding? Where you see this really going as we move forward from here?
I think that the end state ideal platform for lawyers and other professionals is going to be an assistant that is in some ways like human, in that you can converse with it, ask it to do tasks for you, et cetera. So it goes off and does tasks for you. And in some ways superhuman, in that it will do those tasks at an incredibly high level of efficiency and effectiveness. And so we started that project with CoCounsel, but I think it can go way, way, way further. It's about doing more things for people, right? So it currently does about 8 tasks: legal research, document review, reviewing contracts, et cetera, are among those tasks it can do for what we call co-counsel skills. We intend to make co-counsel far more skilled, and it's just building in more and more capabilities of tasks that you can now delegate to your AI assistant. So that's thing one. The second thing is a constant iteration and investment in reliability. We're already at an incredibly high place. We rank very favorably against the kind of manual way of doing things in terms of reliability, but we can always get better. And I think a consistent investment in finding all the edge cases, finding areas where it doesn't seem to understand deeply what's going on in this contract, how can we help it understand better, what's going on in cases. I think that's another like really, really big investment. And then finally, I think it's about integrating, like a good human assistant would be able to access my email, be able to access my files on my desktop, be able, right? So I think it's about deep integrations with all my sources of data, information, billing information, et cetera, to make better decisions. And I think over the next 3 to 5 years or so, you're going to see these AI assistants become way more capable. In legal, it's going to be able to do basically any task, whether it be making a timeline of all the events that happen in a case out of all just the raw documents from that case, or reviewing way more documents, or I guess right now we're in the millions, but do it faster, better, cheaper.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Whether it be put together kind of deep analyses of the opposing counsel and helping repair. There's so many things that we as human lawyers do. A lot of it is grunt work. A lot of it can be improved dramatically by the application of this technology, and I think that's the big next step. Um, so I think a lot of it is just an extension of this kind of project that's already underway. And I think for what it's worth, I think we're out there early with law. I think that we are doing it, I'm obviously biased when I say this because I love what we're doing. I think we're doing this better in some ways than almost in any other profession. I think law was almost a really great natural fit. Um, but I think you're going to start seeing this pop up in medicine and in finance and tax, and I think it's all going to expand along those ways: more skills and capabilities, more reliability, more integrations, and it kind of an increasingly easy interface into how you plug in and use these kind of technologies is the future here.
That's so interesting, and I think it's a very exciting future to look forward to. It's going to democratize a lot of information for a lot of people. Jake, thanks so much for coming on the show today and sharing your insights. If people want to find you or try CoCounsel, where do they go?
You want to try CoCounsel, go to Casetext.com, and I am Jake at Casetext.com. Always happy to get an email.
Amazing. Thanks so much for coming on the show today. For the listeners, thanks so much for listening to the AI Chat podcast. Make sure to rate us wherever you listen to your podcasts and have an amazing rest of your day. If you are looking for an innovative and creative community of people using ChatGPT, you need to join our ChatGPT creators community. I'll drop a link in the description to this podcast. We'd love to see you there, where we share tips and tricks of what is working in ChatGPT. It's a lot easier than a podcast, as you can see screenshots, you can share and comment on things that are currently working. So if this sounds interesting to you, check out the link in the comment. We'd love to have you in the community. Thanks for tuning in to the AI Hustle podcast. If you could do us a massive favor, we would really, really appreciate it if you could leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. This helps people find the podcast. It helps people know this is a good place to go. And we would really, really appreciate it, as it helps us continue to bring on incredible guests and share incredible content for you to listen to.